Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fierros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today we have CJ Calio on the show. With me is my co-host, Vince Gettings. CJ and Jasmine Calio, his wife, are their buy and hold, like out-of-state specialists who focus on creating portfolios of cash flow producing properties. They're proud owners of WNN Properties, so that's Why Not Now. So listeners, take heed to that. Why not now? No excuses. They're a mentorship and consulting company that works with busy professionals to create passive income through real estate so they can live the lives they were meant to live rather than living paycheck to paycheck. I've done over 600 transactions in real estate. Very impressive. Over $20 million in the past 6 years. So no excuses to you guys out there, to listeners. They've recently been able to quit their day jobs, which I think we're all probably striving towards, which is awesome. Live their dream of being full-time investors and spending more time with their three kids. CJ is an active licensed real estate agent with over 5 years experience here in marketing and sales. Jasmine holds a master's in business and a master's in adult education, which explains the education piece. I love that. And they also actually have a local monthly meetup out here on island. So if you guys are listening on island, make sure you stay keyed in for the local meetup, and we'll make sure to put links for that down below after in the show notes. So together, an awesome team. We're super excited to have CJ on the show with us today. He's definitely been him and his wife have been guests at, our local meetups. If you guys have listened to any of those or joined on any of those, so we're definitely excited to have you on the show today. CJ, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me, Steve. Vince, appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I know we got a lot of ground to cover. I want to make sure I value your time. We'll kind of get to some of the meaty stuff, but hear a little bit more about strategy. But I think for a lot of folks, myself included, a big piece of it is just like, hey, what's the background to, pursuing, anything in real estate, right? People got to have they usually have problems that they need solutions for, and, a reason to kind of kickstart, even getting started in real estate. How did you get started in your journey of real estate? Can you tell us a little bit more about, the background and kind of what brought you to this place of having such massive success?
Sure. Where it all started, the irony is Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, everybody seems to have read that purple book. For me, it wasn't even the book. It was the cash flow board game. So my son, probably about the age of 8 at the time, with Jasmine, we're talking about entrepreneurship and investing just because it was a topic that they were working on as a out of school project just to be informed, right? And I had no interest in it. So we started playing the cash flow board game, and it became intriguing on the deals that were popping up. And one of the deals were real estate property, cash flowing assets that you could acquire for like $50, $60, $70,000. And it makes you $100, $200 a month cash flow. And we started doing a little research, like, is this a real thing or not? This game is supposedly based off of real life events to teach financial education. There's got to be something out there. Well, that went hand in hand with the season I was going through at work at UPS. I recently discovered I don't want to work. I don't want to be this anymore. Injuries surfaced, time away from family became more prominent, and I wasn't being able to invest in them like I really wanted to. So this game really surfaced that peak in interest in real estate, especially cash flow.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And of course, I know that book, for so many of us is meant quite a bit, right? So, I mean, I know that was it for me. I remember how long ago I read that book, probably 15 years ago. And that definitely just changed my thinking. But no, that's great. And, the simple fact that the game did what it's supposed to also, right? Like, and how many times have we played Monopoly, let's say, growing up, but we just kind of dismiss it. It's a board game. That's not real, right? Like, oh, that's for other people. But that's awesome. You guys were able to take a game, right, or a tool and actually use it and, kind of did what it's supposed to. It's like kind of pique your curiosity. That's great. So what is your, I know you talked about your family. I know you talked about, transitioning away from, let's say, work and kind of maybe some of the physical toll that I know a lot of our jobs can have on us. What is your why for pursuing, passive income?
It's a great question. My why is my family. It always has and always will be. It's why I believe I put myself in a position to exchange so much time for a paycheck at work, right? We need to provide. And as a male and a father figure and a husband, the security factor to be able to provide that for my family and my wife is very important. Knowing that W-2 job was my only way for a long period of my life really hindered my thinking, my ability to think outside of the box. And again, back to that cash flow game, it really opened up that opportunity for me to redirect my why in a bigger, better purpose, which is now real estate investing.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, obviously, you didn't go from, you guys didn't go from zero to, 600 or $20 million like overnight. And I'm sure there's been some different challenges and some hoops and kind of different things that you guys have had to work through along the way. What would you say is like what's been the biggest obstacle that you guys have had to overcome, along your journey to getting to the point where you're at, where, no, that was the one, that was the roadblock. And, once we kind of tackle that, then we're able to kind of see a lot more success.
Right. It's fear. And I don't think I've fully overcome it. And I don't think I will, because it's a choice, right? To believe in it. I remember a quote that somebody told me: with faith and fear both require you to believe in something you can't see. Mm-hmm. And I've learned to acknowledge the fear, step into it, but take on that faith that there's something bigger and better beyond what I can understand. So basically getting uncomfortable is where I see my most growth. And when I'm comfortable, it's when I allow that fear to kind of close in on me. So it's just continuously pushing myself into that unknown, that comfort level, the next step. That seems to be the biggest hurdle we consistently have to overcome.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think that's probably it for most people, right? It's the fear of the unknown, right? And that's usually why people don't want to make a transition or leave, let's say, the W-2 job, right? The stable job. Well, that's all I've known. That's what I saw my dad do. That's what I see people around me do. I just got to work this job for the next, 30, 40 years or whatever, and that's kind of that mental roadblock, keeping people from taking action. So no, that's huge. And thanks for sharing that too. It's like, hey, this is a constant struggle. I mean, to our listeners, it's like, hey, look, CJ and Jasmine have obviously, attained a very high level of success, probably more success than in real estate than than most people will ever attain. And, you just heard him right there. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm still, that's still something I work with is, having to deal with and overcome is that fear element, because there's always the next level, right? There's always a new challenge on the horizon. There's always something new that you can be doing or push forward to see growth. It's like, okay, well, we did 20 million. Surely there's no way we can do 100 million. And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like always this kind of like that level up, that kind of next challenge. And thank you for kind of being vulnerable there. That's always something, we've got to face and challenge and kind of overcome. So, thanks for sharing that. So I'll pop it over to Vince now. I know he's probably got some questions based off of kind of with strategy and some things that you've got going on now. But thanks for sharing a little bit of the background and kind of the things that you guys are faced along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Steve. So yeah, one thing on that is it's not only on the last thing of the obstacle is it's not just the fear to take action. Once you decide to jump in, head first or whatever analogy you want to use, I use the burn the ships analogy a lot in order to force yourself to take action. It doesn't stop there, because then when you get a little bit of success, then you get this thing called an imposter syndrome. And that's just as bad, right? Because then it's like you get some section, you have success, and it's like, why do I, what did I do to deserve this success? Like the world's going to find out I'm a fraud and I really don't know what I'm doing and I'm just winging it, right? And then you have to wrestle with that kind of for a while. And then really, you get to a point, and I'm not there yet, but get to a point like I deserve to be here and everything I'm doing is the right thing to do for my family. And, and so the imposter syndrome is something real as well. So it's being an entrepreneur, it never ends, that feeling of being uncomfortable and, knowing that, all you have is your faith, and knowing that what I'm doing is the right thing. And this is the right path for me and my family. And you're just going off of, you just have to lean into that, because otherwise you just get crushed by yourself, by your own, mindset. So that is awesome. All right. So one thing I just wanted to kind of touch on it, and before I get into my questions, is kind of the power of networking. I didn't have this one in there. I just typed this question in. So kind of give you a background of CJ and Jasmine. So they have what's called the West Side Meetup on Oahu in a town called Kapolei. And I moved to Oahu in 2017, and I had already done some real estate by then. I think I had like 14 or something units. By then it was kind of right as I was starting, right when I moved to Hawaii. There was a couple meetups in town. But if anybody is on island, they know that like if you live on one side of the island, you kind of stay there. So they had the West Side Meetup at the office. What was that? UPS store, right? Yeah. At the UPS store, started going to that. Thought it was a lot of value packed in this little tiny space. A lot of times it was a standing room. People lined up in the back because there was only so many chairs, and so much value out of that. And we get to brainstorm ideas back and forth. And that's when you were just getting into that commercial BRRRR strategy stuff. And I thought that was really fascinating. Then I was just starting to get into multifamily, and that was, 2017, 2018. And then I moved to Townside and then kind of never went back, because once you live on one side of the island, you don't really go back to the other side. So we ended up, starting our own meetup in town just because the drive was too far. But then, so that's what I want to kind of explain is the power of networking. I met one of my partners at their event, Matt. I met at their meetup. I met Steve at another guy's meetup on town. He did it on the
Windward
side. Yeah, right, the Kaneohe side of the island. So get out there, network with people, and share your passion, ask questions. And I said, I built my whole team around networking events. And Duke, he was my realtor. He doesn't count, but Steve and Matt anyway, at networking events in my local area, just by getting out there, getting uncomfortable, getting vulnerable, sharing my goals with people, my whys with people. And you start attracting, good people to you. So that's what I want to plug real quick is, this relationship between, Tri-City and what now has gone, it's 3-4 years now. So it's very powerful stuff. So anyway, I did touch on the BRRRR strategy and going into commercial. So back in, 2018, I think you might have done a couple commercial by then. I don't really remember the timeline, but like I was kind of splitting off from small multifamily to big multifamily. And you kind of went from, I think you were doing residential BRRRRs, and then you kind of got into like this niche of commercial, like office space and things like that. Why did you pick commercial, like office space and retail over, say, like multifamily?
Well, that's a great question, and we get asked often. We have this belief system that follows the Warren Buffett rule, right? Where everybody is fearful, be greedy. When everybody's greedy, be fearful. And in our niche market, we noticed that everybody was flooding to multi, and they still are. And everybody's running away from commercial. And part of what Cashflow taught me is being aware of opportunity. And everybody might be looking at the same deal, but we all perceive it and have different perspectives on where the opportunity lies. And for us, we found that so much people were exiting the commercial space that we could get an extreme discount, a massive room for value add per se on a commercial space versus buying into the multi in our market, which is going above and over what market value calls, So we intentionally chose that because of that philosophy. Go where nobody else is going. You can find better deals that way.
Okay. So how many of those deals have you done? Like the commercial BRRRRs or master lease options or just commercial deals in general?
We have 4 to date that we closed on. We're working on 5 and 6 as we speak. Nice.
Okay. So one of your main strategies, kind of the cornerstone of your strategy, is the BRRRR method. So can you explain what that is, how you've successfully used it, employed that tool or that strategy, and maybe some lessons learned or some tweaks to it that you've done from your experience?
Great. The BRRRR strategy is simple. It's a strategy, and it's an acronym. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And it's from Bigger Pockets and David Green. Although that's not where I actually learned it. I basically YouTubed it and applied it. what I started off in was, like Vince said, the residential side. So I practiced this skill set, this strategy, and honed in my ability to be consistent in my results with the singles. And I got to a point where we were amassed so many doors, and my wife just basically said, stop, this is way too many doors to monitor, and it's taking a lot more time than we would like. And that was I guess you could call it a pivoting point, where we decided to then look into larger scale properties and carry over this strategy. When we initially started, that's what drew us into commercial. Again, the value add and the lower price points where we had that built-in cushion already off of acquisition. One of the big pointers that I like to point out with the BRRRR strategy that people forget about, everything's made and lost on the buy. So if you buy wrong, the rest of the strategy is going to be out of sync, and you're going to be chasing. And I don't like to chase. So what I focus in on, and when I'm doing the BRRRRs, is the buy. The buy is the most crucial part. You can argue that rehab would be secondary because, different levels and expectations of finishes and so forth can vary based on the product you're buying. Yet everything hinges on the buy. So I'm always looking for that value add play. And ultimately, cash is king, right? So if you can come to the table with cash, it sets you up for that immediate discount, especially in commercial. Because commercial, you guys know, right? The assumption is you're coming in with a loan. And if you can come in cash in some way, shape, or form, oh my goodness, all of a sudden you can deem an automatic 10, 20% discount just because it shortens the time frame to do all these other things that might go with traditional forms of lending.
Two things I want to touch on that is, one, you're doing this completely out of state, correct?
Correct.
So everybody that's listening, their market is, Midwestern type markets, 3,000 miles away, and they're knocking these things down left and right. So it can be done. That's another thing that one of Tri-City's biggest specialties is as well, is out of state markets, building out of state teams that are reliable and consistent, that you can kind of repeat the same process over and over again from very far away. And they've perfected that as well. So out of state, this is all being operated from Oahu, from Hawaii. The second thing is that everybody wants to know about the funding side. It's always going to be a question. So I don't know if you're willing to share that side, but one of your advantages is being competitive going in with other competitors, where if they're going with bank financing and you're coming in with cash. Are you just using your own cash? Are you using hard money? Do you have private lending lines or something like that?
It's a mixture of private money or our own personal cash. Preferably, we like to utilize free and clear property in a 1031 exchange, because that's the ultimate play, right? To avoid those capital gains if possible. And if the timing permits, it can be a pretty sweet play to then purchase cash with a free and clear property sale.
Okay, great. So that goes into the importance of networking. You didn't meet these people, under, behind a rock or something like that, or under rockets. You got out there and you shared what your strategy was doing, and you might have told 100 people before the one person approached you. He's like, hey, I'll back you. You have a good track record. I like your business plan. It works. And then you probably got some backers that way, which is also probably making good returns as well. So walk us through either your favorite deal or a recent deal that you've done, kind of just the numbers of it, what you got, how'd you find it, what you got it for, what the rehab was, what the refinance was, and who you placed as a tenant, and what the current cash flow is.
Awesome. Well, the first one that comes to mind is our major commercial BRRRR. To me, this one will be the home run deal when it's complete. So in a nutshell, we basically got this deal through our real estate agent. And back to your line about how important networking is, our agent networks in her market, and she's known to work with investors who close. So this isn't we'll put out whatever offer to please you, and then we'll drew you down through the inspection period, and then we'll exit because we changed our mind. It's no, when we offer, we're set to close. And she knew exactly what this deal meant to us. She knew what we were looking for. We wanted a massive value add play. We were sitting on a ton of capital from recent sale of a property that was free and clear. So we had the equity just dead. And she got a notification from an agent she's worked with in the past that was representing a seller who was experiencing some hardship and got motivated extremely quick. And how it formulated was they presented it to my agent, and she knew instantly this is exactly what we needed because it fit the parameters of our purchase price we needed. And she brought it to our attention, and we made our offer because we knew this person was motivated. They're going through hardship and we could solve their problem. We gave them a fair cash offer, which was about $150,000 under their asking. So they were asking $400,000. We acquired it for $250,000, all cash. And the beauty of it is it wouldn't be mortgageable anyway. It was a completely vacant, uninhabitable commercial building. So it needed a lot of rehab. And that was the pain point. The person ran out of funds and became pressed to offload. It was distressed. So once we acquired it at that discount, based off of our market research from our network and our team, we realized if we just infuse $50,000 to $100,000, we can now turn it around and rent it out and make $6,000 cash flow. And this is a triple net commercial building. And for those of you who don't understand, triple net in the commercial office space, it's where the landlord basically pays principal and interest if they have a mortgage. The tenant's responsible for every other expense. So we're in the process of the renting phase where we have 3 applicants ranging in that $6,000 to $8,000 cash flow range, and we're identifying which one would be the best fit. Beauty of what happened was this buy happened a little over 6 months ago. We forecasted 18 months vacancy, and we're already having 3 applicants in 6 months in, which is well ahead of our timeline. And if we get this rented for, say, the base of $6,000 off of our pro forma, this property is now worth $1 million. So when we go to the exit on the refi side, maybe we're all in 400. We're taking out the 400 we invested plus an additional 350. The bank would typically require us to leave in 75% LTV. So as soon as we get an executed lease, depending on that amount that we agree upon in the terms, we're forecasting to pull out about $750,000. That's a home run.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you requiring, are you seasoning that at all? Like you sign the lease, are you waiting like 3-6 months or anything like that? Or is it just like as soon as you get that signed lease, going to the bank?
Yep, going to the bank.
That's awesome. That's a good home run. And you did say something in there, I don't know if anybody caught it early on in that story, was problem solving. That's what we do. That's what entrepreneurs do. That's what real estate investors do. Consistently successful real estate investors do is solve people's problems. And that's what you did. This person had a problem that they, the distressed property, ran out of cash, was going through whatever, and you came in and you were the most efficient way to solve their problem. And you got the reward for that. So that is an awesome deal. I kind of have one. I thought of you recently at the new Tri-City headquarters in Midland, Michigan. But so I found this property kind of similar as vacant property. The guy bought it to be a cigar, lounge type of place. And he couldn't get the permits for it because it was zoned office. Couldn't get the permits for it. Sat on this thing for like 4 or 5 years, just vacant. About 3,000, a little over 3,000 square feet. I came in, I offered 180 on it, and not cash. I offered 180 at a master lease option because I know a vacant commercial property is not really financeable. So I'm my own tenant. So it's so I go in there. It's 2 stories, about 3,000 square feet. A little over 3,000 square feet. I'm going to rent one place, Villanautics, who owns the contract, is going to rent it to Tri-City. I'm going to lease out the other floor for whatever, maybe $1,000, $1,200 a month. And then I'm going to go to the bank and then get the new appraisal and then execute the option to buy at 180 when it'll probably be worth at that point around 320, 350. So very similar strategy. It works really well. You just got to have those eyes out there, eyes in the street looking for the opportunity, and not 750,000, but still good base hit.
That's awesome, man. That's still a wonderful deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking of you guys when I was writing that master lease option. I was like, this is like right up their alley, because this is my first commercial, like true commercial property Everything else has been, residential. So
watch out, you might get the bug.
I know. I started looking. I'm driving down the streets and like looking for vacant, office space now. But anyway, yeah. So over the last year, we're in April 2021, 2020. As you said, be fearful or be greedy while others are fearful. 2020 on office space was pretty fearful. So how did you navigate through 2020 with your niche market being commercial when everybody was, running for the hills for anything retail and commercial?
That's a great question. It was partially our networks influenced on us and also our market research. So ironically, everything we went into with the intention for commercial turned out to be medical office and government. And these two entities or tenant types we work with on our first 3 or 4, commercial spaces, they weren't affected. They were deemed essential. So you could essentially say we dodged a bullet just by being in the right tenant class. But it also opened up the window of opportunity for those who are in the hardship classes, right? And this one that we purchased was in that demographic, which is why I believe they got motivated very quick.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So the medical and the, what was it? Medical and government?
Yes.
They did pretty well, or fared pretty well, luckily. So, very, very good. That's just my questions. Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, no. I just, to get some feedback off of some of the things that you guys were talking about. For one, like just to, like for our listeners, right? Like, because we're getting a little bit more into the weeds here on like the commercial stuff. Like that's some of our listeners, of course, are going to completely be tracking and following along with, the conversation there. Specifically talking about like the office space and triple net lease and, master lease options and whatnot. But then of course, there's a big portion that's, hey, that, you're speaking a different language. Like, I don't understand that. But I think what's important to recognize for the listeners is like, hey, if you listen to CJ's story and CJ and Jasmine's story, they didn't start there, right? They started working with residential, just, single family houses, like getting good at understanding the basics of what it takes to do the BRRRR strategy, to implement that, like just kind of, hey, we're just going to work with, these are building blocks, right? And then when you get proficient at that certain level, then you can make a transition to something that's more advanced, that's more, more involved. Obviously they didn't go, they're able to offer, significant amounts of cash because they had it sitting in the sidelines because they had already started taking steps to put that into action. It wasn't an overnight thing. So like for the people that are thinking, oh, well, I need that home run, like right from the get-go, right? I need that lottery win, right? I need that lottery ticket. It's like, it doesn't work that way. But you do need to get started, right? And so you need to start somewhere, wherever your comfort level is, wherever your resource level is. Okay, make a decision, get started, like jump in. That was a huge takeaway for me. Like just kind of listening to your story and kind of as you're tracking along. Something else too, you're taking advantage of things that we take advantage too. You're doing market research. You're going to different markets that are stronger. Now, obviously, you admitted, hey, some of the demographics that we were targeting for lease or for tenants, they just happen to be, fields that are, in demand. It's like, well, yeah, but that kind of holds true, normally, right? Like, we want defense contracts, you want you want DoD, you want, medical, like all of that stuff is super, traditionally very stable. There's always a demand for that kind of stuff, right? So, but then you're also taking advantage of the hedge of protection by being in different markets. Like Hawaii, I mean, we're, you and I are in Hawaii right now. Vince just moved, but we all understand. Anybody who's in Hawaii understands, hey, you know what? Our economy is based off of tourism and military, and defense spending. And it's like, well, the defense spending we can count on, right? They're not, government's not giving up, Hawaii as an outpost, as a military outpost. It's just not happening. But as we've seen the past year, tourism has been devastated. I mean, how many people have been, laid off, and that's just been impacted. And that's just having all of your eggs in one basket. So being in markets that are more stable, that have, let's say, population growth, that have, diverse economic base, Like that's going to be vital. And you can do that when you are going to, like, let's say different markets. When you're willing and open to look at different markets, you don't have to just be based in your market. Okay, your market's expensive. That's okay. There's other markets out there that are more affordable, that have, more diverse economy, that you can still do well in. It doesn't have to be Hawaii. It doesn't have to be Bay Area. It doesn't have to be, some of these expensive markets. If that happens to be where you're located, you can do it at a distance. So just that's an encouragement, to those of you guys that may be listening from one of those kind of, more expensive markets. And I just have one more question before we kind of transition to the fire round. And I know your wife's listening just right off camera, but what's it been like working with your spouse, right? Like, I feel like that's, this is kind of a little bit more personal question, but for a lot of people, like, hey, we have, Vince and I, all of the partners are, we have significant others. We're all married, kids, and you have other obligations, and you're directly working in the business with your wife, with Jasmine. How's that been? Like, how do you guys, kind of manage that? Has that been a good experience? Has that been kind of a challenge? If you don't mind, sharing a little bit, of that with us.
Absolutely. In a nutshell, it's like any relationship. You got your ups and downs. Overall, it's an amazing experience. I mean, what better way to grow an investment business and venture than with your partner for life? You know what I mean? Like, having that support from her, it's key for me to be able to continue pushing through those hard times, or when I'm going to be uncomfortable, right? She's got my back. She's in my corner, and vice versa. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We fight a lot, right? I mean, it's just part of being in a relationship. She's her own person and I'm my own person, and we have disagreements. But at the end of the day, our why is common. And I think that's the glue that holds us together through thick and thin, even when we go through our pitfalls in the business or in our personal relationship. And we've learned to separate. And I think that's the key to it all, is separating the business aspect from our personal side. And if that would be the one word of advice, it'd be that. Learn to separate the business from the personal. You do that, you will be fine.
That's good. That's good. And I didn't see too many like off camera jabs there. So I'm guessing I'm guessing she's good with those answers now. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Well, let's transition now to the fire round. We're just going to ask you a couple of, questions we ask all of our guests. And just keep your, I'll fire away, and you just, hey, whatever comes to mind, just feel free to share. So the first question is already going to talk about something you mentioned earlier. So you'll have to come up with another one. What is the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad Poor Dad? Because we know that, people love to have that. That's a super common answer. And you have already mentioned that one. So give us your next best book.
Sure. It's Extreme Ownership with Jocko and Leaf.
All right.
And then, right on. Their second one too is a great book, Dichotomy of Leadership as well. Both great books, no excuses. Like, the buck stops with you. As soon as you can start taking accountability for your life, the sooner you start seeing huge changes in what you can produce. So definitely a great read.
Absolutely.
Audible is good too, because Leaf's voice is like that super gravelly, like voice. Like, he's seen some shit.
Oh yeah, some of these books you just have to get on Audible, right? Like, it's just best for you to get it.
It's pretty intense. That one, like, You Can't Hurt Me, is another one that's like, it's super intense Audible.
Nice,
good stuff.
All
good
right.
book.
All right, next question. What's your superpower?
Persistence.
Ooh, I like that. See, and so for for our listeners, right? Like, it's like, oh man, well, I'm not good at raising money, or I'm not super personable or whatever. And it's like, hey, look right there, persistence. Like, that's gonna trump, a lot of times, like, talent, right? It's not necessarily always the most talented. It's just the one that has the most persistence, that's consistent, and can, make constant progress. So that's good. What's the biggest?
Before you had to comment on that. So definitely. So the importance of persistence is obviously everybody kind of understands the importance of, but I'm going to relay a specific aspect in persistence and the relationship with that broker that you have in that market. So when I see persistence, the hardest thing is not just, just doing deals and stuff like that. It's getting brokers and agents to take you seriously as a new investor. That is, if you're going to waste your, persistence, gas tank on one thing, that's probably what it's going to be, is just getting these very seasoned, people that have the reputation of being closers and having, that list of investors that are closers. To get on that list takes persistence. And I don't know if you have any stories around that, but I'm sure you just didn't call this person up one day and was just like, hey, we're these new investors from, Oahu, go find us the best deals and get us, the best deals and all this stuff. I'm sure that didn't happen. I'm sure that was consistent. And just my experience, trying to build relationships with brokers, the first 2 or 3 times, like 4 times, 5 times I called them, they're like half, I can tell in their voice that they're like, who's this guy, that I've never heard of before, from Hawaii. So, but it requires that persistence to continue to follow up, continue to engage before they're like, well, they're the real deal. Let me start throwing them some bones. And then there's kind of the floodgates open, especially when you close that first one. So I don't know if you have any comments on that, CJ, but
I do. So in a nutshell, if you wanted to just use the agent aspect of how crucial of having that person that's known and has that reputation to close and has created those results-based edification and credibility, I've gone through over 200 agents in the last 6.5 years. And it's the persistence of looking for those right pieces and also the persistence of not pivoting from or diverting from my purpose and my why. So a lot of it is external factors with agents, in my opinion, that they have their need, their why. And if I'm not in alignment to that, the persistence factor pushes them away naturally. And it's no harm, no foul. It's just business. Now I'm moving on to the next. And until I find those elite connectors, I like to see the agents as the elite connectors. When I find them, then I know I'm in alignment to my persistence and I will get results because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to keep asking. The same thing. I'm going through a lot of agents. I'll skip that part of it, but I've gone through a lot of agents, and you just got to keep finding, who's the closers in this town. Whenever you're talking to people in that market, it's like, okay, who do I need to know? Who's the closers? Who's the ones that get stuff done? And then just keep, being persistent to get a hold of these people and get in their cell phone so they know to call you. So awesome.
200 agents. Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's cool that you've tracked. It's cool that you've tracked that, right? It's like,
mine's probably closer to like 20 agents that I've just been, to use the exact word, misaligned, right? They see the lens through their commission, and I see the lens through I'm building something, building an empire, building something, and it's just that dichotomy there is just unsurmountable, and it's just okay, off to the next one.
Absolutely.
All right, next question. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career so far?
Failure is a choice.
That's good.
Sticker. That's a good one.
He's got a few of them already so far, I think. You should start that, right? That's you guys have a section on your page. It's WNN, bumper stickers. No, that's good. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you can always dissect that failure. Okay, well, I'm going to take away something from it. At least I fell forward, right? It's a big one that I like. But you can always dissect the failure. All right, what can I take away from this so this doesn't happen again? Right. Or what was a win here? Okay, well, the win was I learned what not to do, or the win was, hey, I tried, or we're going to take away some gem from this. Right. So yeah, total decision. Right. So that's great. And for the busy working professionals working towards, financial freedom, right? To ideally what we're all shooting for, what advice do you have for them?
It'd be simply this. It's the philosophy we lived by. So why, what, how? Why is knowing your why you're doing anything, then figuring out how to achieve that why purpose. Why, what, how? Why is the purpose of what you're doing? What is what you're going to do to attain it? And then how will follow.
Nice.
That is really good. It makes me think of, so like my wife and I, we maintain a vision board, and it's like, oh man, I think it's so important to have, because I feel like every time we update the vision board, we do end up actually achieving those things. Absolutely. And so like, just to your point, it's like, well, the how will come.
Yes.
Right. It's like, we're going to set, what are we trying to do? Why do we want it? And then I definitely don't believe in magic, but it's
like that law of attraction stuff, right?
Yeah.
I definitely
yeah. It's just, God, the universe, like whatever it is that, you as or the listener, chooses to kind of believe in, like the things that you are desiring, that those things will be set into motion. So, if you've never put together a vision board, do that. They're super powerful.
Absolutely.
All right. And so as we kind of wrap up here, CJ, how can, if our audience wants to reach out, how can they get in touch with you and CJ, your company, the things that you guys are doing? What's the best way to reach out and connect with you?
The best way is just to go to our website, WNNproperties.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and social media, same WNN Properties.
All right,
also,
right on.
And West Side Meetup. Check them out.
Yep, exactly. I was just about to say that. If you're local, you can meet them in person. Well, yeah, actually, because you guys have been having some, you can shake some hands, like connect with some like-minded individuals and people who are doing more. That's a huge piece right there. So yeah, if you're local, if you guys are, if your listeners or our listeners are here, Oahu, and even if you're outer island, come take a quick flight over. It's super quick. So come visit.
I just did it was 14 hours, not quick.
Hey, that's more than worth it, right? Like if that puts you on the right track, then that's 14 hours. Hey, that's more than worth it.
Yeah. Right on.
All right. So we kind of wrap up here. If you're interested in connecting with us, learning more, go to tricityequity.com to download our free guide to passive investing in multifamily, to connect with like-minded investors, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and more. And if you found value, of course, in this podcast, please subscribe and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Make sure that you're sharing it. You can find it on any major platform. If you know anybody else who might resonate with the podcast, definitely make sure you're sharing it with them. And we really appreciate you guys. We love being able to share wisdom and knowledge, and we look forward to you guys' success. So thanks so much for joining us. Thank you to CJ and for Vince, and aloha, guys.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Vince.